Alright, Morty, I've made a clone of you to help us out when we're gone on our adventures, Morty. Your parents ask way too many questions, Morty, and this will just be easier so your parents don't ask any more questions, Morty.
Aw, gee, Rick, I don't know if that's such a good idea, Rick.
Morty, this will be perfect. It's a flawless plan, Morty, flawless plan.
Okay, Rick, if you say so.
Hey guys, Thomas from wisegamer.com here, bringing you my review of Rick and Morty Virtual Rickality. This is a new VR title from Alchemy Labs, and guys, I have been so hyped about this. They're the ones that brought us one of the most popular games on the HTC Vive currently, Job Simulator, and Rick and Morty is just one of those shows I'm a huge fan of, so really, I've tried to keep my bias out of it, but we'll do the best I can. So the story goes that you are a Morty clone created by none other than Rick Sanchez himself from Dimension C-137. In typical Rick fashion, you're basically just tasked to do these mundane actions while Rick and Morty go off on adventures. You get to complete your task, serve your purpose, and then you get killed by Rick when he's finished with you. Pretty much a perfect play into the Rick and Morty universe. Now, moving into gameplay, Rick and Morty Virtual Rickality plays very much like Job Simulator. It's the same developers, obviously they use the same type of the same type of gameplay or style. That's kind of what they're used to and what they're known for. But this is more set in of course, the world of Rick and Morty, but then also a little bit more to do in the areas too. I felt like there was more to interact with and things like that too. This means that you get to play with things in Rick's garage, shrink yourself down to charge batteries, drink booze, create Meeseeks, and basically all those things that you see in the show. You can actually do a lot of those things here and finally explore those areas in a 3D environment. You get a set of tasks that you have to complete with each DVD disc that you put in from the main menu, and those discs basically act as like levels that you load into to play into each of those areas. So the first one, for example, you start in the garage. There's other ones there as well, and I think there's 9 total different discs that you can play, and then each one of those again have those different task lists that you have to complete, just like Job Simulator had, but you don't have to complete it right away. You can start playing around in the environment and things like that too. There's a lot of different fun combinations to try out while you're in the different areas. Things to play with, like you can combine different items in the first garage area that you're in. So you can take something like a Meeseek ball, which is this ball to deploy the Meeseeks, and combine it with another item. And then when you deploy the Meeseeks, you see their arms change into whatever it is. So you combine like wine bottles in the Meeseek. They'll have wine bottle arms and things like that. So there's all these cool little fun combinations to play with in VR and all these different interactable objects. And really, there was just a lot of fun times just kind of looking around and reading the clipboards about different things and stuff like that, again, isn't part of the just direct let's beat this level as soon as possible, but just kind of enjoying the environment and really exploring the world of Rick and Morty. Now, I didn't show too much of the gameplay off for the tasks themselves in the footage that you're watching, and that's really just because I don't want to spoil anything from the TV series, or really more importantly, ruin the experience for you. There isn't too much gameplay usually in VR titles, and I wasn't sure how many hours you would get into this. So I know, just kind of basing off Job Simulator, if you've seen all the games, there's, I want to say 5 or 6 different options in Job Simulator, then there's not too much that you want to do outside of that. So I didn't want to spoil too much of it, and especially if you're a fan of the show like I am, each experience is going to be really special to you in my opinion, so I didn't want to ruin that. Now, moving into visuals, the game is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, sure, like any VR title, there's a few weird hiccups where, occasionally a tracking error will happen and your hand will drop to the ground in the game. Or, you can stick your head through some objects or other objects will kind of glitch into each other sometimes. But overall, the game looked and felt really good. The items with physics, being able to toss items across the room or throw Meeseeks balls really far out into the street and things like that, it just kind of added a nice little touch that really brought you into both the world of Rick and Morty, kind of helped you with the immersion aspect of VR in general, and then really just the way they recreated all the environments in 3D perfectly to match the show. It just really brings you into their world. I mean, the main menu itself, you're sitting in front of the TV of the living room in the show. You can look around and see that you're in the house of Rick and Morty. And, they added little touches, like I said, where, in the first garage episode, there's, the first garage disc that you put in, the first level you load, there's like cars driving by and little things like that. There's some items outside of the normal playing area where you can use the Meeseeks to get to them and things like that too. So it was really an interesting mechanic to allow you to do more outside the normal bounds of VR, which is, within your play space, whether it's a walking play space, a sitting or standing area. Now, the audio in the game is actually quite amazing in my opinion too. The creator of Rick and Morty actually voices both of those characters as well, both Rick and Morty, and he voiced the characters in the game as well. So you really get that authentic experience of having Rick talk down to you as a Morty. And for anyone that's watched the show, we all know Rick talks down to Morty. So you kind of get that firsthand experience from a first-person view in VR, which is kind of fun. There's also just a lot of cool sound effects, and the different interactable objects all have their own little clanks and things like that. You can throw glasses down, they shatter and break. You get to hear all that too. And again, really just overall, it's a pleasant experience. Now, replayability wise, this game has it all in my opinion. Job Simulator, again, it's one of the top selling VR games, if not the #1 VR game on Steam. And that's very much related to how many hours you can put into it, in my opinion, as well as being kid-friendly, of course, too. So, adults that want to put their kids in VR, whether you think that's okay or not, there's talk about how it might affect their vision in the long term. But regardless, a lot of kids play it as well. So, I think that it's one of those things that it's really interesting that something that has so much replayability is basically being ported to a Rick and Morty universe. And I think this is going to do really well as well. Also, it might not apply to as many people that aren't as familiar with Rick and Morty, but if you do take that chance and pick it up, I think you'll find a lot of replayability in it. There's just so many things that you can do. I don't know exactly how many hours, again, the actual tasks will take you necessarily through the 9 different discs that they have in there, but just all the little gags and Easter eggs they had. I found a receipt of Jerry taken from the show that shows, this is your receipt for your Jerry. If you guys know the show, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's also different cassette tapes that I saw that are in hard to reach areas that you can grab, listen to, and find fun little things to interact with outside of that too. Just little things that aren't necessarily part of that main quest line or task list that you have, if you want to call it that. But again, the price being higher for this VR game versus other VR titles, they really did do a good job of adding a lot of extra little things, in my opinion, that'll make you want to go back time and time again to be able to kind of explore more things and find, little fun notes or gags again here or there. So if you're a fan of Rick and Morty like I am, you're definitely going to get your money's worth on this one. If you're not a fan, I think you'll still get your money's worth. You might not get all the jokes, but I think there's still a lot of things to interact with and do, and a lot of different gameplay and stuff too. Again, I don't want to spoil too much of the later stuff, but there's different things to do rather than just, the job simulator style, complete this, put this laundry in the washer and turn it in. There's different games within the game, so to speak, later on. You'll see what I'm talking about if you play the game, or watch a Let's Play for that matter. So overall, just kind of trying to wrap everything up here. Again, I should say it again, I'm a huge Rick and Morty fan, but I really, really tried not to let my bias get into this review. I love the game. I love to play many, many times if I can. I want to uncover every little thing possible that there is. Look under every desk for every little possible note or Easter egg or, gag that, like I said, that they have in there. In general, it's a title that's allowed me to enjoy VR again, though. And again, removing that bias, just kind of looking at it, I actually haven't played too many VR titles recently. And my Vive has not just been sitting and collecting dust by any means, but I played Abduction, which I reviewed a few weeks ago in VR, or about a week ago now. And this has kind of been the more recent title that I can kind of keep going back to and playing on my Vive for a lot of fun. So being one of my favorite TV shows was icing on the cake, but just being a VR title to get me back onto the Vive again, that's where I really enjoyed it. On top of that, they've added a few other cool things, like there's a spectator mode where you can add a spectator camera. I believe that's going to be used for the virtual reality where you can record yourself in virtual reality. There's a special way you can do that too. You guys can look up if you're playing in the VR. They also have a way to have a child be able to play. So you kind of shrink the world down some so they can be larger and actually get into every little thing too. So that was in Job Simulator. They added it in this as well. So it's nice to see those features. So that said, guys, I've been Thomas from wisegamer.com. This is my review of Rick and Morty, Virtual Rickality. Again, I'll have a playlist down in the description as always to be able to check out my other reviews, and I'll have the link down in the description for the Steam page so you can buy the game if you want. That said, thanks again for watching, and have a great day.